To get a better feel for the 2013 Texas basketball recruiting class, we welcome in associate head coach and one of the main recruiting guys for Texas, Rob Lanier. Coach, welcome to Longhorn Network.
Glad to be here.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the focus of this class. Did you have an idea of what kind of player you wanted for this particular class?
We did. You know, obviously we signed most of the guys late, and so it really started to crystallize for us as we went through the season what our needs are. Normally you don't get that. You target guys and you go after them, but I think you know, our focus really was a byproduct of what we learned about our team as we went through the year. And one of the things we felt, a couple of the things we needed, number one is that we needed to improve our skill level. We needed to get better at dribbling and passing and shooting,
right.
And we needed to become more athletic. And in both of those areas, we thought we needed to improve our backcourt, and we felt like we did that.
So you feel like the skill and athleticism in the backcourt will be upgraded?
Absolutely.
Well, let's go ahead and start with Kendall Yancy. He's a kid from Berkner, a combo guard. Coach Barnes talked about him as saying the versatility is really going to help out. Ultimately, is there a spot, a position you see Kendall really thriving at?
You know, I think he's a guard. You know, and a lot of times, you know, with guards, he's a point guard or a two or a wing. But I think he's an old school player in that he's just a guard that can do a little bit of everything. He can handle the ball well enough to give you minutes at the point. Defensively, he can defend all three backcourt positions. He's got good ball skills, got a good basketball IQ, and you know, I think the name that came up a lot for us in our evaluation of Kendall is Royale Ivy, because Kendall's a tough, competitive, really hard-working young man. So we're really excited about the fact that there's no group of players we couldn't put him on the floor with because of his versatility.
Wow. Royale Ivy. I think Texas fans will be happy to hear that. Is there an instant impact? Do you see him really helping out in one spot next year?
You know what? I think anytime you're talking about freshmen, obviously there's exceptions to everything. But we love the attributes of all of these guys. And, you know, what we think is defensively is probably where he's probably advanced when we're talking about Kendall.
That's the Royal Ivy part, right?
Yeah, well, you know, he's a competitor. He's physically tough, and he's a big, strong, physical kid. He's got a college-ready body. So I think the toughest things for most freshmen is to get on the floor because they don't really understand the commitment to defense and rebounding. He's got that part figured out to a degree that I think he's going to give himself a chance to play.
Another guy you brought in, another guard, Martez Walker, who's a lefty from Detroit. Coach Barnes said his game is unorthodox. What does he mean by that?
Well, you know, he's one of those left-handed, herky-jerky,
Reggie Freeman-esque, maybe?
You know what? There is some of that in his game where it looks like he's got the type of release on his shot that he wouldn't be able to get his shot off, and then the more you watch him play, you see that he's just got a knack for doing things that you wouldn't expect. And you know, he's a lefty. He's another one that the first word that everybody associates with him is toughness.
Okay. Second guy you've talked about toughness.
He's a real competitor, and he's got a reputation for being a guy who makes big shots and big moments, and played for a great high school program and played for great coaches. So and he's a tough Detroit kid, and he brings a level of competitiveness that we coveted.
DeMarcus Croker, another guard. You bring him in from Orlando. The book on him was he's very athletic, also has a nice shooting touch. Anyone you compare him to that you've seen in your past?
Well, I mean, that's tough. I mean, you know, there's a lot of guys that I think, you know, would come to mind. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on a young man.
Come on, Coach, who you got?
But
give me one.
He's a serious athlete.
Really?
I mean, he's an exceptional athlete physically, and I think he's got an interesting combination of his ability athletically and his skill. There's a real good combination there, and rarely do you find guards who can jump the way he does, who have the shooting stroke that he brings to the table. So lot of upside with DeMarcus Croker.
Now, he's a guy, you guys obviously struggled with scoring at times last year. Is he a guy that can come in and can give you instant offense?
Well, again, I think you always have to be careful jumping to that conclusion, but certainly in his career, at some point, we expect that he'll be a guy who can really score the basketball. Fortunately for these guys, they're going to get an opportunity, all of them. And so certainly his skill level is, the timing couldn't be better for him to come in and bring what he brings to the table.
Isaiah Taylor, as we get the fourth guard in this class, comes in, was originally from Oakland, 6'2" guard. When you looked at his game, what attracted you to it?
He's a point guard. He's not versatile.
Legit.
Yeah. He's the least versatile of the group, and that's a good thing because he's a true point guard, and he thinks the game like a point guard, and he's got speed, athleticism, control, and a very high basketball IQ, and another tough, competitive young man.
Well, Kabongo obviously is gone, so you think Felix would be the guy to step up, but do you really feel like Taylor's a guy who can maybe help him out, kind of like Felix did last year?
Certainly, and I think in Javon's case, you're not going to play 40 minutes, and you know, he's a guy who's got the ability to score himself, and he showed flashes of that during the year. And I think Javon is a guy who could play with Kendall. He could play with DeMarcus Croker or Isaiah. All of those guys have the ball handling skill to be primary ball handlers throughout the course of games. And so I think it all helps Javon, and certainly Isaiah's mindset is that of a true point guard.
Well, Coach Yancy was the highest rated of this group if you listen to the pundits, but last 10 years, I mean, you look at when you came here in '99, I mean, the classes you started to bring in, TJ Ford, then we get to Kevin Durant. There were a lot of blue chippers that were picking Texas. Last couple years, it seems like maybe the highest blue chippers are not coming to Austin. Do you have any, sense of why they're not coming here anymore?
I don't think it's a question of whether or not they're coming here. It's a question of the approach that we're taking right now. And I think from our standpoint, you mentioned TJ Ford. TJ Ford was on a team with Royale Ivy, Brandon Mouton, James Thomas, Jason Klotz, Brian Boddicker. And those guys established for us a foundation that allowed the program, after TJ was gone, to still go to a Sweet 16. And I came from a program when I came here that was built on those type of foundational guys. And certainly you'd like to add to those guys a TJ Ford or a great player along the way. But, we've got 6 returning sophomores who all played double-digit minutes. We've got a returning junior who's got a lot of experience. And now we've got another group of very talented, athletic guys that give us a group that really represent the core values of Rick Barnes basketball. And we'd love to add a great player in there somewhere, but we want to make sure we give ourselves an opportunity to have a high level of stability and continuity in our program, and we're excited about that.
Coach, you got 5 departures from the 2011 class. 4 of those guys are transfers. It sounds like kind of this last answer you're kind of getting there, but is there a point where you're trying to figure out which guys fit and are the right fit for this program and which guys aren't?
No, that's what it's all about. I think that's what this whole thing is always about. And, I was just telling somebody earlier, my first 2 years at Florida, we're coming off back-to-back championships. We go to 2 NITs, and over that 2-year period, we lose 8 guys. 2 went to the draft, the other 6 left the program. And at that time, there was a little bit of a cloud hanging over the program the same way. And what ended up happening when all those guys left is we got better. And I think, I'm not making any prediction right now, but I think the reason we got better then and the reason why we're going to have a chance now is because we became a team. And I think that's what's happened with these returning guys that I speak of. We had a great spring, and we really feel like a team. And I don't care who you got. If you're not a team, you might win enough games to make people think you got it going, but you really don't got it going unless you got a team.
Right.
So we want to get a team first, and then we can maybe add some pop to it going forward, but we're excited about the team part of this.
Interesting you bring up Florida. You were there with Coach Donovan, won a couple of national titles, and then had to deal with that, what you talk about afterwards, a couple NITs. Do you really see the similarities between the evolution of the Gator program and the Longhorn program?
I do, and it feels the same, smells the same, sounds the same, everything about it, and I think the makeup of the foundational guys that I spoke of, if you look at that team, they wound up getting better. We wound up in the Elite 8, and they've been in 3 consecutive Elite 8s. And the guys that are really the backbone of that team, will you get Scotty Wilbekin? I don't expect you to know who those guys are, but those are the kind of guys that we view our incoming guys as and our returning guys as. And so there's a lot of similarities. And the biggest similarity that I saw was going into year 3, after all those guys left, the transformation and the impact that it had on Billy. I see that happening with my boss.
Really?
I
How so?
Well, just when you got a team when you really get to a point where you got a team, I think it brings out an engagement and a connection. Whenever a head coach feels like he's walking in the gym and he has a group in front of him that represents his core values as a coach. And I think you could say that about any coach on our campus or any coach that's had any level of success. They're at their best when they have their guys in front of them every day, because they know they're going to be able to get the most out of them, and there isn't that dissonance that you experience every time you walk into the practice floor that you're trying to change people. Instead, you're trying to get the most out of the group that you have, and I think that's what I see happening with my guy.
What is a Rick Barnes guy?
Well, the name we always use is Royale Ivy. But you know what? When I saw Royale play, I didn't think he was a Big East player. I did not think he could play for North Carolina. I didn't think he could play for Duke.
His dad didn't.
His dad didn't, no. But I did think he could play for Rick Barnes. I thought he could play at Providence. I thought he could play at Clemson. And I thought he could play at Texas because of Rick Barnes. Huh. And that's what we see in this group of guys that we have because of his makeup and his character. He's got a level of competitiveness and resiliency that allow him to go through the rigors of what coach is going to present to them, because if coach has a strength, I think his strength is taking guys and pulling them out of their comfort zone. And I think if you have guys that don't really want to go through a journey and a process, coming out of their comfort zone is not a part of that equation.
Right.
And so guys like Royale, they want that.
Yeah.
And I think if you look at the guys who've really been successful here, that's the way they've been wired, whether it's Tristan or TJ or Brandon, whoever. That's coach's strength. And I think if you surround him with the right guys, he's going to elevate them. And I think he's done that with us as coaches, and I think it's our responsibility as assistants to help him identify those guys that are going to bring out the best in him.
Well, Coach, definitely always enjoy the chat. It's a pleasure when you come in here and talk hoops. Thanks.
Appreciate it.